we had $0 budgeted there, but subsequent to passing the budget, there was an agreement worked out with the Bethlehem Homes for Lutheran Relief to reimburse them $25,000 a year for 4 years. And the 10-11 budget was the first year that we had to reflect a payment to them. Now that $25,000 is being budgeted for the 10-11 school year. But there could be an instance where we have to refund a prior year revenue, maybe for a small tax appeal case that cleared through. This happens occasionally during a school year, and we refund the money if the citizens are owed it. The next question was, why in these categories would the percentage change in the budget indicate 0? Can this be accurate? Well, if we have 0 money budgeted, obviously the computer would calculate a 0% increase. However, if you're referring to that category refund of prior year expenditures, where we had 0 budgeted, and then for the new year we budget $25,000, 25,000 divided by 0, the computer would still kick out a 0.4% increase. I don't think that can be calculated.
My question there is, we had 3 or 4 categories where we had zero money budgeted during the 10-11 school year, and we had some dollar amount, and depending on which category we're talking about, there were different dollar amounts. But when I looked at the percentage change column in the budget, they reflected 0. Now, I don't know if they reflected 0 because when you add up the math, the percentage change is less than 1%, or that's all I'm just trying to understand.
If you can give me a specific example, I could.
Well, any of the 4 that you talked about there, we had.
Let's look at the refund of prior year expenditures.
Well, that was 0 to 25,000.
Right. The computer would not be able to calculate a percentage change on that because you're going from 0 to 25. The computer would not be able to handle that.
I'm not sure I understand that. If there's a dollar change like blind and visually impaired, I mean, that was a $10,000 figure. Emotional support was an $86,000 figure.
Blind and visually impaired, that's under tab 1. That's function 1224, where we had 0 budgeted for 10-11. We're budgeting a little amount of $10,000. Again, it's the dollar increase is 10,000 divided by the budget column of 0. The computer will not be able to kick out a percentage there. It'll just kick out a 0.
That's what I'm a little bit confused in. I'm assuming if we had a 0 expenditure in, doesn't matter what the column was, in 10-11.
Right.
And we've got a projected expenditure amount of whatever for 11-12.
Right.
There's got to be some percentage change in the budget.
Well, it is. If you, if you look at the bottom, all those dollar changes get added together, and then it kicks out for that whole category of the 1,000s, 11% increase. If you look at the total of that yellow sheet, you'll see the whole 1,000 section, instructional services, is increasing $1.5 million. Divide that by the 10-11 budget of $13.6 million, you get an 11% increase.
Okay. Is there a reason, again, maybe I'm just missing something, why on the individual lines, when you go over to a percentage change, they show a 0?
Well, let's see what the calculator does. Okay. Again, it's computer driven.
Okay. I mean, I don't know, that's all I'm just trying to...
Yeah, it's a computer program. So let's say it's take 25,000 divided by 0. You get an error. That's just a function of mathematics. I guess I can't explain it. I'm not a math teacher, but...
That's what I was trying to understand, because
yeah.
it seemed to me that there should have been a change on a line item if we have additional expenditures that we didn't have the year before.
Well, I agree. I just don't know how mathematically you can show a $10,000 increase over an original budget of 0. The computer calculator spits out an error. the computer can't handle that. But when you look at that total of that column, you'll see that they all get added together, and then of course the function works. The mathematics does work. You had a question on homeless student services. Homeless student services are paid for by the Title I budget, and of course we do not have an official Title I budget yet for the new year, so right now there's no money budgeted there. It's always been a small amount, anywhere from $500 or less. So when Becky Pallas works on her Title I budget for next year, obviously she'll allocate some money to homeless student services. And then when we do a future draft, that line item will reflect some amount, some small amount. I think that's it, John, for your questions.
Do any other board members have any questions or suggestions on eliminating the cuts?
Jim, would you, Mr. Sutter's comments about when we're coming from the Johnstown area, have you looked at dropping students off at the northern end and then of course like coming from Salzburg, coming up 22 and coming through sort of drop, has that been looked at, or is there an increase in cost?
Well, that's a good comment that Ed made. And again, I don't plan the athletic out-of-district trips, and it could be a function of the bus leaves the high school and goes down 30 up to 17, and then it might be just a function that the driver knows to come back the same way. Would it involve more mileage to leave from Blairsville, go down 22, and then come down that way? It may not amount to much mileage at all. What I can do is, when we plan future athletic trips, we can look at that with Mr. Kalina, and then we'll see, what the difference might be. Again, it might be immaterial in dollar amount, in which case, why not do it for those kids? I agree.
Thank you.
Mr. Marnell, that was done during football season last year. I think Mr. Miller has gone. Mr. Baldneri might be able to address that. There was an agreement the parents had to sign to do that. Kids were dropped off at 2 locations out that way.
I believe that was, I'm sorry, that was based on the most efficient route coming from wherever we were
Exactly.
to the high school.
Exactly.
And we were not to make exceptions to that efficiency
Exactly.
for the convenience of the group.
I assume Mr. Sutter is addressing another sport, but that was done during the football season.
When we came down
Right,
through that
exactly.
way naturally.
Exactly.
When you came that way.
Yeah.
You don't come that way. Salzburg.
Mr. Robbins, I would like to just make a comment, and it's not that I have an answer or a solution, but each month we, as board members, sit and listen to comments from the public, oftentimes talking about dollars and cents issues, or in some cases, for example, as Ed, you brought up tonight, the possibility of changing our routes a little bit that might accommodate students from the northern end of the school district. And I agree with Irv and I think some of the other board members that we certainly, if we are able to do that, we should look at that as a possibility. We then have to weigh that against costs. A couple of months ago, this board passed a motion on a booster organization where we waived our policies so that the booster organization would benefit from a tournament that was run. And we did that because we thought that it was the right thing to do. But yet we sit here on this board and we have very difficult decisions to make relative to the budget. And it's not easy to sit here and to sometimes try to make the decisions that maybe in our heart we think are right for the benefit of kids, but may cost us a little bit more money from the standpoint of the overall budget. The budget we are facing is a difficult budget. I'm sure that Dr. Oldham and her administrative team are working diligently at looking at how we can reduce the potential millage impact to the taxpayers in our district. This board is going to have some very difficult decisions to make. It may come down to us having to look at decisions such as if the millage comes in too high, or if the board feels that it's too high, do we need to look at programs, or do we need to look at activities or services that we offer for our students that might have some budgetary impact? And you have to weigh the pros and cons of that. I hope that we don't have to get into that situation as a board where we need to look at and evaluate programs and or extracurricular activities. But yet we hear from some of our taxpayers that, well, we need to look at reducing the millage as much as possible so that there's a minimal impact on our taxpayers. So these decisions aren't easy. I think you can hopefully see from some of the questions that have been raised by some of the board members that we are taking this very seriously. We have looked at the budget. We are asking questions. We're trying to understand parts of the budget that maybe we don't fully understand or are a little bit confused by. But we're going to have some very difficult and tough decisions to make. And we appreciate your comments. I know sometimes you get a little frustrated with us when you don't think that we give you an answer that you're looking for. But this is not going to be easy. And I think that this board will work very diligently with the administration to come up with a budget that we think will provide the best education for the children in this school district, and yet one that will be economically the best choice for the taxpayers of the school district as well. So my comments again are, although sometimes you may not hear a direct response from us, we do hear what you have to say. We do appreciate your comments. And as I said, I know that Dr. Oldham and her team, as well as the members of the board sitting here, are all working and looking at various ways that we may perhaps lower the potential millage impact to the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does anyone else have any comments? Well, I'd just like to close and echo that this is not an easy job. We have not raised the taxes in 4 years. I, for one, it's been very hard for me to raise taxes and vote for that. So everybody is working very hard to keep the millage as low as possible, but still give quality education to the students. Are there any other comments? If not,
I'd just like to say one thing. I think that sometimes the public assumes that the board needs to sharpen their pencils and cut this and cut that. I think that's an administrative process first. They're the people that we have hired to run the district. Then they need to come back to the board once they've done what they need to do with the board to make final decisions. But I think we, at this point, cannot go in and say, okay, we want you to get rid of 10 teachers and 5 programs. I don't think that's the purview of this board. I think we have an administrative staff, a very capable administrative staff of doing the initial process.
I agree with you, and this is a process. This is what we're working through, and at this point, this is where we're at. There will be further discussions and further, look at the different alternatives, but it's a process that started a couple months ago, and it's being taken very seriously by the board, and I think everybody has their eye on the ball, and we'll move forward to the next step of the process. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Is there a motion second for adjournment? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?